We started doing team building activities the first week that I was here. Guys lifted and competed really hard, but we started building that connection and building that team, the first week that we were here. And, it started with a simple dodgeball tournament after morning exercise. We did that, almost weekly as we built our program. And those things are just as important as the lifting and the running and the X's and O's. At the end of the day, you get into tough situations on the road or at home, doesn't matter, and it's the fourth quarter. It's about the guy next to you and trusting him and being connected to him. If it's just about yourself, it's really easy to give up on yourself in those moments, man. If it's about somebody else or something that's bigger than you, it's hard to let go of the rope in those moments.
This episode of Beyond the X's and O's is brought to you by Baya Energy Drink. Welcome back to Beyond the X's and O's, and great episode today with Coach Josh Heupel, head football coach, University of Tennessee, the head football coach of the state that I happen to coach high school football in, which is kind of fun. We had a really cool conversation. We go all the way back to Aberdeen High School in South Dakota, where it all started for him. And he's like, not many Plains quarterbacks get recruited at a very high level. But he got the chance to go play at Weber State. And then most people don't know he fits in this category with your Cam Newton, Aaron Rodgers, and Josh Allen, of guys that went and played junior college football. He goes to Snow Junior College in Utah, talks about his journey there and what he learned, how he loved what ball brought him. Obviously played at a high enough level, was an All-American to get to Oklahoma. We talk about that national championship journey and that game specifically and the nerves that went with it. His brief little cup of coffee in the NFL and how because of injury, and not because he wasn't a good player, but really because of a career-ending injury, he gets kind of pushed into coaching and he actually starts at his alma mater, Oklahoma. And it's just fascinating journey of what he learned in his coaching journey and how he's grown as a coach. And that's really, I think, the meat of this conversation is he gets the head job at UCF. What he walks into is pretty unique, and what he learned on the fly there and the success they had now launched into one of the premier jobs in college football. And now he's changed as a coach. And I can tell you firsthand, and you'll hear this in the podcast because we get to see it in state, what an incredible process he's built with University of Tennessee, and that they're coming back to national prominence. He's added speed and tempo offensively. They're breaking records, but there's substance within the program, and he'll talk about that. So a really good conversation with Coach Hype. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. We're excited to have our guest there on the Beyond the X's and O's podcast, the head football coach at the University of Tennessee, Josh Heupel. Hype, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing awesome. Great to be with you today, Trent.
Good. Thanks for joining me. Hey, we start this show, whether it's a Hall of Fame quarterback or a big-time college football coach, it's kind of the same question. It's all about the high school football experience. You're at Aberdeen High School in South Dakota. Talk me through that first varsity start there.
Yeah, factory of quarterbacks have come out of South Dakota. Let me tell you, my first game my sophomore year, lost the battle in training camp and came off the bench in the third quarter and got us to move the football around a little bit and score some points. And so I got that start the next week. I wish I could say I went out and absolutely torched the field up and torched the opponent, but we ended up getting beat. But we moved the ball a little bit, and it was the beginning of the process for myself and really our program.
What do you remember the most from your high school football experience?
I think the thing that you take away is, the time spent with your teammates. You think about strength and conditioning, early morning workouts. You think about, we went to a team camp in Missoula, Montana, at the University of Montana before my senior year. It was just all of us for 3.5 days out there competing, but just spending time together. It's guys that, for myself, I grew up in that town, had known my entire childhood, and just so much fun. To be honest, Trent, my hometown, we were a really good basketball program and had won a bunch of conference championships and had an opportunity to play in a bunch of state championship games, and did that while I was at the high school too. We had to build our football program. So one of the things that I think about is just building ourselves up as a program where we had an opportunity to compete with anybody. By the time that I was a senior in our program, or our senior class was done with our high school experience.
That's awesome. Sometimes building something from the dust is actually better than joining something that's been built. Now, I'm not going to call you old, Hype. I'm old. You're not old yet, but you were
Yeah,
recruited before Huddle and D1 highlights and all this social media and the way recruiting's done now. So you built this program. You're part of the senior class that built this program. What was your recruiting process like?
Yeah, there weren't a lot of guys looking for a left-handed quarterback in the middle of the plains in Aberdeen, South Dakota, with what I would call average speed. Some would call slow. So my recruitment was unique, and I say that meaning that I had camped at some different places. At that time, you went to camps and you went for 3 days, and so I had camped at a couple of different places. I was a 2, 3, 4 on most mid-level college boards. Had a trip set up to the University of Houston 2 weeks before signing day. They canceled on me, got a commitment. Same type of thing happened at Wyoming and BYU. And so for me, at the end of the day, my best option was 1AA programs at that time, and looked at a couple of different places. Ended up at Weber State University. They had a guy that was going to be a senior. I felt like I could go in redshirt and have an opportunity to compete that following year. They had a lot of success. That league, the Big Sky League at that time, was one of the few leagues in America that was throwing the ball all over the yard.
Now you ended up, and I want to kind of dive into this one a little bit. Your time at Weber State was how long before you went to Snow?
I was there for a year and a half. Yep, I redshirted my first year, had a chance to compete for the job, tore my ACL actually in the spring game of my redshirt year. Came back about a fourth of the way through the season, got a chance to start as we went down the stretch as I got healthy there.
And then you go to Snow Junior College in Utah. And I want kind of want to land here for a little bit because you're not the only one that went on to have a great Power Five career after going to junior college. Cam Newton, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, to name a few. But talk to me just about that experience in JUCO and what you learned from your time there. And obviously, I'll spoil the end. You're an All-American there and launched you to go to Oklahoma. But just the process of being a JUCO player and the value in kind of cutting your teeth as a quarterback in that landscape of football.
Yeah, I wish I got a chance to play as long as some of those names that you threw out there that have had some long NFL careers. But for myself, I actually gave up a scholarship, went to Snow at that time. Other than giving in-state tuition, there were only two full scholarships that they gave. They gave those out to a couple of really good players, guys that played in the NFL. But it was just an opportunity for me to bet on myself. I believed in who I was and the way I was going to compete, and had a chance to continue to grow as a player. Uh, Middle of nowhere in Utah. When I'm talking about Ephraim, Utah, Snow Junior College, there was nothing there but 2,500 students, a couple of gas stations, and one or two places to grab dinner. But it was a ton of fun, man. Guys were pure at that time, and I say that meaning that it was all about the ball.
Yeah.
We were in a locker room. I shared a locker with a guy. We took 17-hour bus trips. I remember getting on our bus Thursday night at midnight. You'd wake up in Vegas and eat at a breakfast buffet. Right, you get back on, eat lunch in Phoenix, Arizona, and you still might have another 4 or 5 hours after that. And you'd come rolling in after the ball game Sunday at 4, 5, 6 o'clock at night, and having to flip it around and do it all over again. But it was a ton of fun. I lived in an apartment complex. Lived in a 3-bedroom. We had 7 guys living in there, and there was somebody that was sleeping on the couch every night. I could touch all 4 corners of the wall. I called it my bedroom, but it was really a closet. But at the same time, so many great memories and a lot of guys that I still stay in touch with from that year.
And that's what I want to dive into because you mentioned a couple things that I think are really important. And I remember talking to a guy that I know really well, Jeff Tedford, when we got the Cal job, and he really infuse some professionalism and some love of football into that California football program through the JUCO ranks, Aaron Rodgers being one of them. And I remember him telling me, it's like, because I find out right away when I recruit these guys from JUCO that they love football more than what football brings them. And I think that's an interesting place to kind of land on your experience. I mean, you better love ball if you're going 17 hours on a bus and then having to play in the 17 hours back. You better love ball if you're not getting all the amenities of the great locker rooms and all the swag and all the attention. And I think JUCO is a great place, and your experience proves this, where you can kind of identify which guys are in this for the ball and which guys are going to go to their next college and be all about ball as well. Have you found that to be true as you've recruited JUCOs in your coaching career?
Yeah, absolutely. I think whether it's recruiting junior colleges or programs that don't have every resource at the high school level, or guys that are poor, hungry, and desperate coming from wherever they are. I got done playing. I got to Oklahoma and shoot. You give me a Gatorade after practice. I was pretty excited about that, and you want guys that love to compete and don't care where they're doing it. Competitors love to compete no matter what arena that they're in. I don't care if it's playing in front of 100,000 people or playing in front of 200 people. Don't care if it's ping pong, pool, whatever it is that they're coming across. You want to find guys that love to compete. And, to me, that changes the way that they approach the meeting room, the way they approach the practice field, the way they approach every minute of the day when they're not spending time with you. You got to have guys that are self-starters and are passionate about becoming their best.
Well, that love to compete that you're talking about, you obviously had it and it allowed you to go to Oklahoma, like you mentioned, but you're one of the very few humans that can say they won a national title. I mean, you have this incredible season under Bob Stoops. You end up going and playing the national title game. I want you to walk people through kind of start to finish of that day, the actual national title day, and just all the emotions and feelings that came with.
Yeah, an unbelievable run with great coaching staff and 115 brothers that it was so fun to be a part of. That program before I got there hadn't been to a bowl game I think for 5 straight years, and collectively, coaches and players alike, what we were able to build in a short amount of time, the effort and strain and competitiveness that we built, and the brotherhood that we built there, and you get an opportunity to play in a bunch of big ball games. The national championship game was, the ultimate of those. And you wake up that morning, man. You know this, right? You've been in Super Bowls, and you know that you're getting an opportunity to live out a dream that day, right? It's almost surreal. I think when you wake up, you think about the end result that you want to accomplish, and throughout the course of the day, there's a ton of nervous energy that builds up, like there is on every single game day. But there's nothing like that ride into the stadium, and knowing that every eye in America that cares about football is watching that one football game. And it's a culmination of so much time, effort, and building something that you want to take advantage of that moment. And there's nothing better than when you run out that tunnel and the flash bulbs go off or the lights go off. I mean, that you're living that dream right there in that moment.
How did you feel like you played in that game? I asked this question a lot to people playing the Super Bowls. Quarterbacks played the Super Bowls, or quarterbacks played national championship games. Like, if you graded yourself, what grade would you give yourself?
Yeah, it was not my best ball game by any stretch of the imagination. However, we found a way to win that ball game. Our defense played lights out that night. Offensively, we were able to scratch and claw. We missed a bunch of opportunities on the plus side of the 50 where we didn't get the points that we had an opportunity to get. But at the end of the day, man, it's about finding a way to win.
I agree. Don't feel bad, man. I grade myself like a C minus for the Super Bowl. So that we
Yeah,
left so much cheese out there is ridiculous. I left so much cheese out there.
yeah.
So
Hey,
yeah,
you're never
you're right.
going to catch
You
me
don't think
feeling bad
about
about it.
that.
You'll never catch me feeling
You
bad
don't
about
think
that, I
about
promise.
much because you're able to win. I'm sorry. I keep stepping over you. Keep saying what you're saying.
No, I was just going to say, you're never going to catch me feeling bad about it, man. We won that ball game. That's all that matters.
Exactly. I feel the same way. Well, we're going to go to our first break. When we get back with Coach Hype, we're going to talk about his draft process, his NFL stint, and then what launched him into coaching. We'll be right back. New Starbucks Bio Energy drink with caffeine naturally found in coffee fruit It's energy that's good. It's a beverage that is crafted from caffeine naturally found in coffee fruit, as well as antioxidant vitamin C. It includes 3 delicious fruity flavors: mango guava, raspberry lime, pineapple passion fruit. A refreshing fruit flavored boost of feel good energy in a way only Starbucks can deliver. Starbucks Buy It Energy drink packs energy and flavor that gives me that boost when gearing up to watch the big game, have a long day out on the field with the kids, or sit down and have a quality conversation for our audience. Starbucks Buy It Energy drink is available online, at grocery stores, convenience stores, and gas stations nationwide. All right, back to the Coach Hype from the University of Tennessee, and again, I mean, you're one of very few humans that gets to win a national championship, and in the big scheme of things, very few players get drafted in the NFL. I believe you went in the 6th round to the Dolphins. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Talk to
absolutely.
me.
No.
You can talk to me kind of like through what the draft process was like, what those expectations were, and then actually when you got to the Dolphins, how that all shook out.
Yeah, for me was a little bit banged up coming off of that national championship season, that game in particular as well. Wasn't able to play in postseason bowl games. Went to the Senior Bowl, did the medical stuff there, but wasn't able to participate. And was able to do some of the speed and agility, the vertical jump at the combine. Still wasn't in a position to throw yet. Had sustained a little bit of an injury. In the national championship game, and so coming back pro day, able to go throw and compete, was probably as healthy as I had been in a long time at that point, and able to go through that draft process. Knew that I'd be a middle round guy, middle to late. I don't care when you think you're going to get drafted, that day, that weekend. At that time, it was a 2-day process. It was a Saturday, Sunday. A lot of nerves, was around a lot of family, a lot of friends. The one thing that I always tell all of our players, it doesn't matter when and where you go, enjoy that moment. There's such a long process that has taken place to get to that moment. I mean, you think about your parents, your family and friends taking you to little league games, junior high, high school, your college experience. So much goes into it. Enjoy it, and you can't control what happens that weekend, but ultimately get a call from the Dolphins, and excited that I'm going to get a chance to go down to South Florida and have an opportunity to compete.
And what was that like once you got there?
Yeah, for me, a different world, right? A guy had grown up in South Dakota, Middle America, at Oklahoma, get down with the Dolphins, a bunch of great players down there, a really talented defense at that time. You're talking about a bunch of guys that were all pros and some Hall of Famers off of that defense. It was awesome to get a chance to watch those guys play, practice, and compete every single day. Their consistency. For myself, was still kind of banged up during that process. Got a chance to play in the first preseason game. Kind of re-injured something that had happened in my wrist during the national championship game, and at that point was kind of on injured reserve, and had gone through a medical process. So for myself, spent the next month and a half, 2 months rehabbing there with the Dolphins. Was at a point where I knew that I needed to have surgery, and ultimately went and had the surgery on my wrist there. And from that point forward, it was all about trying to get healthy.
And then when did you know? So you're trying to get healthy, you're chasing NFL dream, but then when did you know that coaching was in your future?
Yeah. So for myself, when I was with the Dolphins, when I met with the doctor the first time, he essentially said, "Listen, you got a long road to ever have a chance to play at this level, and you're going to have surgery." The bones were moving around in my hands, or in my left hand. So I had the surgery. Went up to Green Bay, rehabbed during the off season, up until OTAs ended there at the end of June. Tried to pass a physical to get myself in a training camp. Wasn't able to pass that. Spent the next 6 months trying to rehab. And if you remember at that time, Trent, there was NFL Europe. So got drafted, was supposed to go to Barcelona, went down to Tampa, failed the physical there. Failed my last physical with an arena league team maybe 2 months later. And so I had no choice at that point, Trent, that I definitely knew that I was going to have to go in a different direction. And for me, I sat around in June. An opportunity in July came available to GA at the University of Oklahoma. I'd always thought that coaching was the next step for me whenever that was done. I grew up the son of a coach. My childhood was waking up at 5:30 in the morning, going to training camp with my dad, working in the equipment room, and being in every meeting that I possibly could. It came a lot quicker than I wanted or anticipated, but I decided that coaching was where I wanted to head.
We're obviously going to take a deep dive into your coaching career, but something just hit my brain because the World League was going to be an option for you. Now we have the USFL, we have the XFL. You're obviously coaching one of the premier programs in the country, and you have players that can go play in those leagues. What's your take on them?
Absolutely. Take advantage of every opportunity you have to develop. The NFL, 53-man roster, very few opportunities to develop into the player that you need to be at that league. And everybody develops at a different time frame. And so there's some guys that are going to get drafted. They're going to have a great opportunity to go play immediately. There's guys that in their 4 or 5, sometimes right now with COVID, the COVID year, you got guys that are playing in their 6th year. Everybody develops at a different time frame. So if you have an opportunity to go play in one of those leagues, play up in Canada, go take advantage of it. I challenge all of our players: you play as long as you possibly can, the coaching world, the business world is going to be there for you. Take advantage and use every opportunity to go compete and do the thing that you love to do.
Amen. All right, so you're sitting there. You're earlier than you wanted to, but you get this great GA opportunity at Oklahoma, and for the young coaches. And we've really tried to use this podcast as an opportunity to have you veterans speak in the youngsters that are climbing the ladder right now. Give me like 2 of the biggest lessons you learned in that GA experience.
Man, work as hard as you possibly can. Be the first one in, be the last one out. It's really similar to being a great football player. Take advantage and create connection and lines of dialogue with everybody that you can on that staff. Looking back on it, that's something that I think I did, but it's something that I would even spend more time on. I think it's a great time to give yourself an opportunity to learn everything that you can about this game. If you played quarterback, learn and study offensive line play, learn the defensive side of the football, get involved in special teams. Take advantage of every opportunity you can to gather and soak in as much knowledge as you possibly can.
Really a good lesson for a lot of coaches to understand that not every job is cookie cutter. Now you're there, you're the head coach of UCF, and it's your first game. Like you talked about the game day of winning the national championship. What was your first game day like as a head football coach?
A ton of nervous energy. In some ways, you have a lot less control than you did when you were playing. The nervous energy leaves you real quickly as a player, I feel like, and really a surreal moment for me too. I grew up the son of a coach. I was the little guy that was running out in the back of the locker room behind all the dudes. To be in that position where you get a chance to lead a program, to go out and compete, it really is a surreal moment. And you think about all the people that have been a part of that journey. It was a lot of fun running out that tunnel that first time and embracing and enjoying the atmosphere of that stadium and the guys that you're running out with.
It's so cool to think about because, you mentioned there are so many people that poured into you as a player, as a coach, and it's a payoff for them to see you finally climb that mountain and be a head football coach. So what an awesome answer. And we're going to go to our next break. When we get back, it is going to be all Tennessee volunteer football from here on out. We'll be right back. Here at Beyond the X's and O's, we don't shy away from real life conversations. And today we're talking about one of the most taboo topics: finances. U.S. Bank offers a wide range of credit cards for a wide variety of financial needs. And one of its most useful cards is the U.S. Bank Visa Platinum Card. With a low introductory APR for 24 billing cycles, this card is a tool for getting ahead. The U.S. Bank Visa Platinum Card is a savvy financial move for large purchases, unexpected expenses, and balance transfers. And with the ability to customize your payment date, this card gives you control over your financial future. Apply now at usbank.com/platinum. With the US Bank Visa Platinum Card, you can be worry-free for the next 2 years. To see if you qualify for the best introductory APR out there, visit usbank.com/platinum. Limited time offer. The creditor and issuer of this card is US Bank National Association, pursuant to a license from Visa USA Inc. Some restrictions may apply. All right, now we're talking Tennessee volunteer football. And Coach, you and your staff have brought speed and tempo to University of Tennessee, and you shattered a bunch of offensive records, had a really successful first season. Talk to me about just early entry point and knowing how you're going to build this thing at Tennessee.
Yeah, for me as a coach, you get introduced and it happens so fast. You get a chance to get in front of your players at the end of that day. I had a team meeting. I got a chance to talk to them for maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And then I just listened for the next hour and 15 minutes. And it was a real conversation. And I think that's one of the best things that I did is give them a chance to truly get an understanding of who I was going to be and some of the things that we thought we were going to be about as we grew as a program. And to me, that was a great starting point where you start to earn trust and start to build that communication. As we started, though, man, it was about being and going down to them. I was in the locker room. I was in the weight room with them as we hired a tremendous staff. We poured in a ton of time and energy into those players. And to me, that's where it all starts. It starts with a true connection. And if you don't have that, it's hard to move the bar very far. If you start with a connection and a relationship, man, you got a chance to grow extremely quickly inside of your program.
And how have you gotten better in your second stint? And maybe that was the answer, but what lessons learned from UCF have you taken to Tennessee? Is it kind of a reboot of what you did there, or did you make some significant changes in your approach?
I think it's, as coaches, you look back and you self-scout yourself and you make subtle tweaks in what you're doing, offense, defense, or special teams. You look back at your off seasons, you make changes. As a head coach, you do the same thing as well. And it starts from the first time that you get a chance to have a conversation with them to, the subtle things that you're doing inside of your program. We started doing team building activities the first week that I was here. Guys lifted and competed really hard. There were some foundational pieces as far as how they competed when they were in an athletic setting that were really positive. There's some things that we had to change too, but we started building that connection and building that team, the first week that we were here. And, it started with a simple dodgeball tournament after a morning exercise, and guys got, we had 30 minutes before guys had to be at class, man. We competed and had fun together. And, we did that, almost weekly as we built our program. And those things are just as important as the lifting and the running and the X's and O's. At the end of the day, you get into tough situations on the road or at home, doesn't matter. And it's the fourth quarter. It's about the guy next to you and trusting him and being connected to him. If it's just about yourself, it's really easy to give up on yourself in those moments, man. If it's about somebody else or something that's bigger than you, it's hard to let go of the rope in those moments.
I love that answer. Now, I've gotten to know your staff pretty well, and you have hired an incredible staff. And they've mentioned that you've really leaned into positivity. Talk us through why, in a world of negativity, you just decided to lean into positivity and how you lead this program.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people on the outside hear that word and assume that you're not pointing out what's not right and you're not being real. To me, we're going to be as real as we can possibly be in the way that we communicate and the expectations. Are we meeting them? Are we not? And while you're doing that, you can be positive in the way that you communicate. And that's me as a head coach to our assistant coaches, to our players, and it's the way that they communicate back. It's the way that we operate as far as our body language and just who we are every single day. I do think it's, ultra important in today's world that you recognize the positive things. I think so often as a coach, you get caught up in the 10% that aren't doing it right, or the one or two things that weren't perfect. And you asked earlier, just, what are some things that you've maybe subtly done different, in your second opportunity or at your second program. I think it's, really coming from a place of passion, not emotion, not getting caught up in the emotion of a moment or of a game, and being able to recognize the things that are going right, and not always focusing on the things that you got to get corrected. As a coach, you got to correct things, and so you focus on that with hyper intensity. But recognize the positive things that are going on inside your program too.
And I'm sure you've learned this as a parent too. I know I have, raising three daughters, athletes. We came up as a family. We kind of parented your awesome ... But and I've taken that in my coaching philosophy. And the reason is because kids open up when they hear affirmation first. When you do point out the positive things they're doing, when you do take time to recognize they're making progress, all of a sudden they feel affirmed and they're willing to hear the ... But we need to get better at this. We need to get better at that. Hey, you need to fix that. And it's been amazing. I love what you're saying, because I've noticed it here at the high school level that, man, you affirm a kid, you start positive, you recognize what they've been doing, the work they've put in. They're willing to do anything, and that trust grows as well. So I really applaud you for how you approach that with your program. Now the question I love asking the most. I mean, you're leading one of the premier programs in the country. What makes it special about being a Tennessee Volunteer?
And this is an iconic program. That's why I wanted to be here. Top 10 in history of college football and wins. Top 10 in NFL draft picks. Anything you want to do, you can do from right here. As a competitor, I played or I coached in this stadium. Drove up, saw 200, 250 boats tied up on the river. Vol Navy's as unique as it gets in all of college sports. Ball walk itself, I almost didn't believe it until I experienced it. 30 to 40,000 people lined up before the game. It's an unbelievable atmosphere. Close to 103,000 people on game days. I think the tradition and the passion of this place is unsurpassed in college sports. The expectations are unbelievably high, and as a competitor, you want to be a part of that. They're never going to be higher than they are inside of the building. That's why we compete the way that we do every single day. I've loved what we've done as a program. Our kids are accountable to each other and to the program every single day. They trust and respect each other and love each other in a really unique way. And I'm talking about players and coaches together. And because of that, we have a chance to attack every day really uniquely as a competitor. And it's so much fun. Our players love being in the building. Our coaches do too. And so excited about the future of Tennessee football.
That's awesome. And we'll end this way. We try to do with every guest we have, because nothing you've accomplished you could have accomplished without your family. So pay it off to Dawn and Hannah and Jace. Just the impact they've had on your coaching journey. I know I'm a son of a coach, so my mom, my wife's a wife of a coach. I got daughters, so I know what it means to them, and the support they've given me. Talk to them about the support they've given you.
Yeah. As a coach, you give to others inside your program so much. You miss out on some opportunities or some time with your own wife and your own kids. That's why I think it's so important in this profession that you engage and incorporate them into everything that you're doing. And life is enriched so much through the relationships that you've had. Got an unbelievable family, but the relationships that I've had with our players and our staffs, different places that I've been, make this life a really unique road and one worth traveling through. But I couldn't do it without my co-pilot, and really, I'm the co-pilot. She's the pilot of our family. Our wife, Dawn, who's been through everything up and down with me. She pours into this program in such a powerful and unique way. She's the love of my life. I couldn't do it without her. And my daughter, Hannah, who's all things football outside of her ballet. She's my football girl that's going to sit down and watch a game with me. Just such a unique person, and so much out in front of her. And my son Jace, who's all ball all the time, that is running around my hip out on the practice field. This is a life that I can't imagine living without them, and I'm so appreciative of them.
Well, Coach, we appreciate your time. What an awesome time with you, and we're big fans. And thank you for what you're doing for the state of Tennessee. And We'll look forward to talking to you next time. Thanks, Coach.
Trent, always appreciate it. Love what you're doing there in mid-state with your program, but just how you're impacting people throughout the country. Always a great honor to speak with you.
Thanks, brother. That concludes this episode of Beyond the X's and O's. Thanks to our sponsor, Baya Energy Drink. Well, thanks again to Hype for his time today. University of Tennessee football's in good hands. We'll see you next time on Beyond the X's and O's.